Hi everyone, my name is Shauna in case you don't know, and welcome back to another video. In today's video I'm going to be doing the Infinity Stones book tag. So this is just a fun little book tag where there is the different prompts that are based off of the Infinity Stones. I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory. The creator for this tag will be linked down in the description below, and their channel is called Novelty Corner. So this one I feel like is going to be a quick book tag, but I also yap a lot, so this could be a little longer. So the first one is Space Stone TESSERACT, a book that transported you. So I'm gonna go with the book that I'm currently reading. By the time that this is uploaded, I will have finished this book because I have like 50 pages left, and I'm gonna go finish this book after I get done filming this. So this book is House of Earth and Blood. This is the first book in the Crescent City series. I have the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, which is why it's just here. The author is Sarah J. Maas. Yeah, that's why there's none on the cover here. I love this edition. It is so pretty. I'm like trying not to bend the spine too much, which is why I'm not holding it like all the way out to show you. So House of Earth and Blood in the Crescent City series has a very complicated world. There is the map of the city in this book, and then where is the houses? Here's the houses with all of the different species. So let me read some of them off to you. So the species fit under different houses. There's shifters, human, witches, ordinary animals, angels, fae, elementals, sprites, river spirits, mare, water beasts, nymphs, kelpies, nox, daemonaki, reapers, wraiths, vampires, draki, dragons, necromancers, and a ton of other ones that aren't listed here. So there's a lot in this book. And it really transports you because there's so much that you have to really get invested and memorize all the details of this world. And by the time that you get that invested, you're like, oh, I'm completely not in this world anymore. Like, you feel like you're in this fantasy world. And there is such an interesting like murder mystery throughout this that really just transports you and gets you to really like think deeply and come up with your own theories. So this is definitely a book that transported me. In this book, the main character Bryce had a best friend, and her best friend dies early on in the book, and it is a very gruesome and graphic and tragic killing, and a man gets arrested for the murder. However, a couple years after her best friend dies, these murders that are graphic and gruesome and really tragic start up again, and they realize that they have not caught the actual killer yet. It's a book that transports you so quickly. I love it so much, but it really does take a while to get into the bulk of this book because there's so much information you have to learn. I feel like it's about the 300 page mark that I felt like I was fully invested, and this is like an 800 plus page book, so less than halfway before I got fully invested. But I know that I'm going to be fully invested for the second book because I got so invested in this one, and hopefully my book club reads the second one soon, although I have to get my hands on the second one, and I sort of low-key want a matching copy like in this edition. Guys, I almost stabbed my eye out with my book. So we're not going to hold up any other physical books for this video because I don't have any with me right now because I am house sitting, and also because I don't want to lose an eye because I am clumsy. The next up is Mind Stone, LOKI'S SCEPTRE, a book that made you think. A book that made me think is one that I'm actually not a big fan of, and that's the Poisonwood Bible by Barbara Kingsolver. So first of all, if you haven't read the Poisonwood Bible, it's about this family from America who go on a missionary trip to the Congo, and while in the Congo starts fighting for its independence and freedom, and they get caught up in this war. So first of all, if you think missionaries are 100% good and you 100% support missionaries, read this book because it will change your perspective and make you completely think about missionaries differently. Second of all, a reason that it made me think is because it really made me look at the complexities of humans, because I don't like any of these characters. I find them all to be racist, especially early on in the book, but we see them change and morph, and we see how they start changing their worldview, and seeing them change their worldview, and with everything that unfolded with the tragedies and with them trying to immerse themselves in the culture, I just really thought deeply on a lot of that as I was reading the book, which is part of the reason it took me such a long time to read the Poisonwood Bible. I won't say that I necessarily recommend the Poisonwood Bible because I think that it's pretty slow and I don't really like the writing style. However, I think that is a book that'll make you think a lot, and again, if you support and love missionaries 100%, it will change your perspective on missionaries. Question number 3 is Reality Stone AETHER, a book with an altered reality. So when I think of altered reality, I think of VR type things, and I was tempted to do Ready Player One, but I was like, I just talked about one that I didn't like, so I'm going to talk about a book that I did like. And in Divergent, there is some altered reality stuff going on in the book because there's a test, an aptitude test, to find out the faction that people belong in, and there's a bunch of different tests in which people get given a drug and they get put into this altered reality where they have to face their fears, or they have to face different challenges that help determine where they are supposed to fit into society. I love Divergent. I don't feel like I need to explain what it is very much because I feel like everyone knows what Divergent is and everyone knows the plot basically. And the next prompt is Power Stone Orb, a book with a character that has great potential for good or bad. I feel like I need to choose one for like a book that I haven't finished a series for because it's talking about great potential. So because I think that this one would be most fitting if I chose a book for a series that I haven't finished yet, I'm gonna go with Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse. So this is the first book in the 6 World series. I need to finish this one. I own the second one. I have no excuses why I haven't finished this series yet, but we're gonna talk about this series for a little bit. So this series is a dystopian futuristic series with fantasy elements. So it's about this girl and her grandmother dies, and when her grandmother dies, it's a traumatic experience that triggers her powers, her clan powers that she has from her indigenous background. So she becomes a bounty hunter and a monster slayer, and there is rich indigenous mythology woven in here. There is strong characters, and the reason why I'm choosing Maggie is because she has the potential for both great things and for horrible things, because she has a tendency for violence because of her powers and because of the person who sort of like trains her a bit. She has a great potential to be this good character, or she could be like the villain potentially and turn into a villain, but also like that rarely happens when it's the main character. So I feel like she has so much potential for both good and for both bad, and you see throughout the first book that she does have good in her, but she also has some darker sides to her. So that's why I'm choosing Maggie for this one. And also, I highly recommend Trail of Lightning if you're into futuristic dystopian type stuff, or if you're into stories with mythology in there, it's specifically like indigenous myths. Next up is Timestone, Eye of Agamotto, a book set in a different time, past or future. So since I just talked about a book that takes place in the future, I'm going to talk about a book that takes place in the past. So I'm just searching up this book really quickly so that I make sure that I get the author's name correct, because I don't remember the author's name off the top of my head. I read it as an iBook a few years ago. It's a historical fiction. I'm sure you've heard me talk about this book before if you have seen lots of my videos, especially my 2020 and 2021 videos. Come on, laptop, you can load things. I believe in you. When I house sit for my neighbors, sometimes my laptop is like, which Wi-Fi am I supposed to connect to? And it never fully like connects to one or the other, and I think that's what's going on right now. I honestly just need it to connect to one enough that it can load this page, and then we're all good. So this book is called The Wren. It's by Christine McCaffrey, and it is the first book in the Wings of the West series. This book takes place in 1877 in Texas, and it follows this woman, Molly. 10 years ago, Molly's home was attacked and she was abducted from her home. Her family was killed and she is the only survivor. 10 years after that tragic event, she's returning back to Texas to her home, and she finds her neighbor, Matt, and Matt has been horrified by her supposed murder because she was abducted. She was never found, so they assumed that she was murdered, and they happen to stumble across each other and start to get connected in each other's lives again. It is a romance. I feel like the cover, I don't know, I don't like the cover of this book because I feel like it makes it look really, really steamy. There is one steamy scene and that's it, and it's like not very long, so I don't like the cover of this book. When I read this book, I had people unfriend me on Goodreads because it's too adult looking, and I was like, what? Because I read it as an adult. I believe I read it when I was the same age as the main character, and I was like, people are unfriending me over this? It was wild. But anyways, this one takes place in the past, which is why I'm choosing it. Last I saw it was free on the iBook store. I don't know if it still is anymore. It's not like the best book in the world, but it is a book that I did solidly enjoy, and if you're looking for a book that is potentially free on different ebook stores, then try reading The Wren because it is a fun romance. And finally, Soulstone, a book that stole your soul. I feel like the perfect one to do for this is Harry Potter, specifically Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, because of the Horcruxes. So obviously Harry Potter is one of my favorite series of all time. I talk about it nonstop on my channel because I love it so much. One of my earliest memories was of watching the first film and crying because fire. I made it to the part where there's fire with Quirrell. Can you believe I made it that far? Like, I didn't cry with the fire with the chess scene. I cried with the fire with Quirrell because that was scary to me as a little tiny kid. I don't remember how old exactly I was. I want to say I was like 2 or 3 because I believe I was in my current house, and for the first like 1.5 to 2 years of my life I lived in a different house. So obviously Harry Potter has stolen my soul. I adore it so much. Honestly, nothing can compare to the Harry Potter series. So that was the Infinity Stones book tag. If you would like to do this tag, feel free to look down in the description below for all the different prompts for this tag, and also again the tag creator will be linked down in the description below if you want to check out the tag creator's channel. I hope all of you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to me if you haven't already. I do a lot of book tags on my channel, so I will link a playlist down in the description below where you can go ahead and watch my other book tags, and I try to upload a video at least once a week, so I will see all of you next week for my new video. Until next time, goodbye.